Welcome, dear readers. You're listening to Time to Read, a Winnipeg Public Library podcast book club. We're recording today from the Millennium Library in Winnipeg, Manitoba, Canada, which is within Treaty 1 territory, the traditional lands of the Anishinaabe, Ininew, and Dakota peoples, and in the National Homeland of the Red River Métis. Our drinking water comes from Shoal Lake 40 First Nation in Treaty 3 territory. In this episode, we will be discussing Children of Time by Adrian Tchaikovsky. I'm Dennis from the Idea Mill, and I'd like to remind everyone that, like the Great Nest, we also have a website. Across the table from me is...
I'm Toby. I'm an outreach librarian based out of here at Millennium Library, and I, for one, welcome our giant spider overlords. And across the table from me is...
Hi, I'm Trevor from the Louis Riel Library, and for our spider listeners out there, I'd like to just tap out a little green to you. I hope I didn't offend them.
A good book can carry me away from an average and ordinary day, yeah. So keep it down, leave me alone, close the doors and turn off the phone, 'cause all I ever really need is a little more time to read.
And you, dear readers, we wouldn't do this without you. If you've got comments about what we've read, or maybe some book suggestions, we'd love to hear it. Send them to us quick before we go into stasis and spend the next 1800 years journeying to a planet made out of books. You can find our email address and all our social media outlets by going to our website at wpl-podcast.winnipeg.ca and scrolling to the bottom of the page. Hang around till the end of the episode to enjoy our superbly lexical segment, Nerd Words for Word Nerds. Before we proceed further, let's check in with the panel. What's up?
Well, you know, we're getting into the fall season, which is kind of book award season, and the Booker Prize people have announced their long list of candidates for the award. I think the Giller Prize, this is going to be announced in September. And if you're interested, you can go to the Booker Prize website, and they have a little quiz that you could answer. It asks you a bunch of seemingly unrelated questions, and it will tell you which Booker Prize finalist you should read first. So I did it. And the one that came up for me was a book called Universality by Natasha Brown. So I thought maybe I would just read the description of this, see if they got me right. Late one night on a Yorkshire farm, in the midst of an illegal rave, a young man is nearly bludgeoned to death with a solid gold bar. An ambitious young journalist sets out to uncover the truth surrounding the attack, connecting the dots between an amoral banker landlord, an iconoclastic columnist, and a radical anarchist movement that has taken up residence on the farm.
It sounds like your kind of book.
Yeah, you know, it doesn't sound like an award winner, but it does sound like the type of book I would enjoy. So if you are interested, we'll put the website up, I guess, on our show notes and see what book they suggest for you.
Cool.
This is not book related, but I am fostering cats through the Winnipeg Humane Society, and I currently have a cat named Jeff. He's a short-haired tuxedo cat who is just over 2, and he's lovely. And I think he'll be available sometime mid-next month. So if you're in the market for a cat, Jeff is a good one.
Go, Jeff.
Go, Jeff.
Having a tuxedo cat at home, they're tons of fun.
There we go.
I mean, all cats are tons of fun, but tuxes are just so handsome.
They're very, very handsome. Yeah.
Okay, so Toby's going to tell us about the author, and then Trevor is going to give us a summary of the book.
Okay, Adrian Tchaikovsky. First of all, we'll get this out of the way. He is not related to the composer Pyotr Ilyich Tchaikovsky, who biographers have generally agreed was actually gay. The composer Tchaikovsky was married to a woman, but only for a couple of months, and hence he never had children, no legacy, no relation. So now we will get on with it. So Adrian Tchaikovsky was born in Lincolnshire in June of 1972. In his teens, his storytelling energy went into being a games master of various role-playing games. At 17, he read the Dragonlance books by Weiss and Hickman, which are novelizations of a role-playing game, and those served as kind of a light bulb moment for him. He studied zoology and psychology at the University of Reading, then somehow ended up in law, working as a legal executive for many years. His first foray into publication was in 1996 when he submitted several stories to the small magazine Xenos. He spent 15 years trying to get a novel published, giving himself a threshold of the age of 35, after which he decided he'd give up. In 2008, his fantasy novel Empire in Black and Gold was finally published. This was the first of the Shadows of the Apt series, which is now comprised of 10 novels. The series is set in the world of the Kindin, human races who share the traits and abilities of the giant insects which roam their world. After completing this series, he published his first science fiction novel, Children of Time, in 2015, which also explores the world of insects. The guy likes bugs. Have you seen Trevor's blog post?
I'm not sure.
Okay, well, in the author photo, he's wearing this vest covered in bugs.
Okay.
Yeah.
I want to say the author is wearing a vest, not me.
Yes. Okay. Thank you for clarifying. Tchaikovsky really identifies with parts of the natural world that don't get the same good press as animals like dolphins and pandas. By 2018, he was successful enough that he could afford to work as a writer full-time. He has been highly prolific, publishing more than 30 books in the last 15 years. He's won a bunch of awards, including the Arthur C. Clarke and Hugo Awards, as well as the British Fantasy Award. He is a keen role player and board gamer and is trained in stage fighting, and he lives in Leeds with his wife and son.
Mm-hmm.
I don't envy your task this week in summarizing this book because it's
I appreciate
3,000 years or some odd.
Yeah. And as you know, I have a weakness of consulting AI from time to time, which I did. And they gave, or it, I don't know what an AI's pronouns are, but I received a very succinct summary that I liked. But I thought, no, our listeners like to get a real summary from a real human. So I prepared one. And then I thought if I kind of go off the rails, I also have the AI one ready to go. So I might read both because I really do like the AI one. But let me just start with this book. So this is mine. We open in the far-flung future. Earth's resources are depleted and humanity's only hope is to head out in ark ships to find suitable planets to populate. To this end, we meet Dr. Avrana Kern, in charge of a terraforming project in deep space. She controversially plans to launch a ship of monkeys onto the planet, along with a nanovirus that will infect them and cause them to evolve at an exponentially greater rate than nature would allow. The hope is to have a race/class of subhuman slaves to work for the inevitable arrival of humanity. But things go wrong. Her experiment is sabotaged, and while the monkey ship burns up in the atmosphere, the nanovirus still makes it to the surface where it infects the existing life forms, specifically porta spiders. They're like jumping spiders. Yeah, and other things, but we focus mostly on the spiders and the ants, I guess. But confined to a tiny satellite above the planet, Kern uploads her personality to the satellite systems and merges it with the AI, and so becomes a kind of a weird human-machine hybrid. So, okay, if you haven't lost me by now, then we're going to jump over to another part of the story, which is the Ark ship Gilgamesh, which is carrying one of humanity's last sort of collection of humans. And we meet the core crew as they wake up from their cold sleep. So we meet the crew. There is Commander Guyan, who's kind of this autocratic commander of the mission. Holston, who is the ship's classicist, who's responsible for translating and interpreting any old empire culture they encounter. Then we have Lane, who is the ship's chief engineer, and she's the de facto leader and becomes sort of the spiritual leader for those that are born. Spoilers later on the ship. We have the chief science officer, Vistus, and Karst, who is the chief of security. So we have sort of these two parallel stories. One is kind of like a Attenborough documentary about the spiders evolving and interacting with other animals and insects, even I think some kind of like, what are they, shrimp or something in the water?
Oh,
so
the mantis shrimp.
Right. And you kind of see how they're evolving over the years. And then it cuts back and forth between them and the humans on this ship desperately trying to find a new home to live. So we get these two storylines, the evolution of the spiders on the planet and the trials and tribulations of the Gilgamesh and its crew trying to find a new homeworld. Progression of the spiders from dominating other spiders. Then we get the relations with the shrimp and ants. The stealing of the crystal. Okay, you know what? Maybe we'll just add, yeah, I'm just good. Because I realize I'm just rambling at this point.
Yeah, the crystal. Wow.
Yeah.
You're getting deep.
Yeah. I don't need to go all that. Okay. So here's the AI summary, everyone. Children of Time by Adrian Tchaikovsky is a science fiction novel that explores themes of evolution, civilization, and the nature of intelligence. The story follows two main threads. One is a group of humans aboard the starship Gilgamesh, fleeing a dying Earth in search of a new home. The other centers on a terraformed planet intended to host uplifted monkeys, part of an experiment by scientist Dr. Avrana Kern. However, the experiment goes awry, and instead a species of spiders, portids, is uplifted and evolves into a complex, intelligent civilization over thousands of years. As time passes, the paths of the human survivors and the evolved spiders converge, setting the stage for an unexpected and thought-provoking encounter between two vastly different sentient species.
Nice work.
Much
Thank
briefer.
you.
Yeah, both you and
Well, yeah, I
AI.
see. I kind of lost my way, but I knew I had a backup.
This one is a tough one to summarize succinctly and to have more details of the story in there that we're used to.
I feel like you'd have to have almost like a crash course in science fiction. Like you have to understand what terraforming is before you read the book. You have to sort of understand the idea. And apparently I didn't realize this, but the idea of exalting animals is a term used in other science fiction books. There's like a whole exaltation series by, I think, is it David Brin or something, which I did not know. So he's using language that if you're a science fiction, I guess, enthusiast or someone that reads a lot, that you would have this baked into your back knowledge. But this was all kind of, I knew what terraforming was, or at least the idea of it. But a lot of it you kind of had to, I felt like it was you had to really get up to speed fast.
I feel like there were enough contextual clues to pick up a lot of it. But
Yeah, I
anyways,
agree.
We're already jumping into the conversation.
Yeah. Oh my God.
I didn't even get to say.
No,
I didn't even get to say how'd you guys find it.
I know. This is a different kind of episode. We're
I'm excited that I have people to talk about with this because this is a wild book, and I kept trying to talk to my spouse about it, and he, of course, hadn't read it, and I really liked this book. I'm often hesitant or wary to start a book like this because often there's a lot of world building that happens, and you have to get through that before you can actually start to enjoy it. But this one I felt like got into it really quickly. I feel like within a dozen pages, I was in it. I was enjoying myself. I thought the first half was really strong. I liked both storylines, and there was that tension as I was waiting for the storylines to collide and the humans and the spiders to meet. And then after that first meet happened, I felt like it lost its way a little bit. Like the spider storyline got really technical and sciencey, like the spiders developed vaccines and they understood DNA and they developed a concept of God. And then there was a war between those who believed in God and those who didn't believe in God. And there was a monorail and an airship, and it was just like, it was getting kind of crazy. And then the human storyline, it was just like there was a crisis and Holston was woken up. And there was a crisis and Holston was woken up, and that kept happening over and over again. But then, again, near the end, where the two factions meet, that was very exciting. And I really liked the ending, like the last 100 pages and the ending, so good.
Yeah. What I liked about this book was that it didn't go where I thought it was going to go. That I sort of had this idea that, okay, I the story is kind of telegraphed, but the humans encountered problems and resolve them in kind of weird, unexpected ways. So that I found the story very interesting. You think, okay, there's going to be these evolved spiders, and then the humans are going to arrive. It's going to turn into this all-out battle between the two of them. But no, spoilers, the humans aren't even allowed to land because the Kern AI is preventing them. So they leave. And it's for a while.
First time.
Yeah. And so I thought, okay, that was a big twist that now I don't know what's going to happen. And so I found that part interesting. I didn't think I would really get into learning about the ins and outs of spider culture, but I kind of dug it.
This book ticks so many of my boxes. Right off the hop, I was ready to love this thing because I love stories about like generation ships. Which wasn't what the Gilgamesh was initially. It was an ark ship with like a frozen cargo of humans, but eventually it became a generation ship when things kind of went awry. I love those kinds of stories when you have these ships that are out there and they're supposed to be self-contained and journey for a long time, and then things go horribly awry and you have to figure out what's happened and fix it somehow. I love post-apocalyptic stuff, and there's like a couple of apocalypses kind of in this book, but it starts off with a big one. I love thoughtful science fiction. This one verges on hard sci-fi in terms of trying to have scientific explanations for everything and being quite logical and reasonable about the way everything is extrapolated and developed. So like right off the hop, this was a book that I was going to like unless he did a terrible job, and he did a wonderful job. The writing is really good. I really loved the fact, like at the beginning when I was reading it, I appreciated the fact that he kept the same names for the lead spider characters throughout the story, which I thought of at first as a convenience because it's hard to remember lots of different names over a period of time. But I realized it also led to having more empathy for the spiders because you become familiar with Portia and Fabian and Bianca, and you start connecting them. And it also made sense from a story point of view because of the nanovirus. They actually have memories of previous generations of spiders. So in a way, Portia is Portia from the past because she still has the memories of Portia, or the understandings of Portia anyway. And then, like you were saying, Trevor, the story twists. It doesn't do what you expect. The first time the Gilgamesh approaches this planet that they're intending to go to, they can't get down because Dr. Kern's satellite is powerful enough to stop them, and they are too weak to really fight back. And so there's an aborted thing where one person ends up left behind on the planet and captured by the spiders. And then the ship has to go off and do other things. So it was a real swerve. But I really enjoyed watching the Gilgamesh kind of fall apart, and for Commander Goyen to become like this God Emperor character who's suddenly going really weird and doing things you're not expecting.
Yeah, like I was thinking, like, okay, I guess like uploading your sentience to a computer is a thing that these people can do. Like the first time that happened with Kern, I was like, oh, this is weird. And then it was like, well, okay, now another person is trying it.
And like they didn't notice, well, they did notice how like crazy Kern was, and they still thought, oh, this is a good idea.
Well, I don't know if they realized she was uploaded to the computer at that time. Because at that time, they weren't aware of the upload technology.
The Kern and Eliza, which they knew were connected in some way.
Yeah, but I don't think they understood how.
Okay.
I'm just realizing as we're saying this, the conversation may sound a little disjointed if you haven't read this book. This is a tough one to summarize easily, and a lot of stuff happens. So if you find what we're saying confusing, just kind of roll with it a bit.
It's like when I sent you that email last week, and I was like, I can't believe the spiders went to space. Like, out of context.
Yeah. And reading the whole, like, evolution of spider culture from little hunters who start to cooperate with each other when they used to be very individualistic, and then how that evolves into small little city-states and eventually into much larger organizations with culture, the ups and downs of those cultures, like when they start fighting the ants and the ants are overwhelming them and it's just like a very near thing. The entire society is nearly wiped out but comes back. And how they were able to use the ants after that to have them do things that the spiders couldn't do alone. So that by the time you get to the end of the story, you identify a lot with the spiders. I mean,
love those spiders.
Yeah.
They're smart, they're creative, they have problems, and they're developing those problems. You know, like they're working on them. Like there's that whole plot with, you know, how the male spiders represented by Fabian at one point want the right not to be eaten arbitrarily, and how this is like a real struggle. And as a result, Fabian leaves the great nest and goes off to Seven Trees, and Seven Trees ascends, which reminded me a lot about, you know, in human history, like the way Nazi Germany was killing and imprisoning Jews, and so many Jewish scientists left, and their contributions to weapons development in the United States and elsewhere led to Germany losing the war. There's a lot of parallels with human history and culture. Yeah, and then when you finally get to the battle, the final battle that, you know, encounter between them, the anticipation, like the chapters leading up to it, I was so excited I had to put the book down a few times to calm myself and get ready for this battle. Yeah. And then it's not what you expect.
No,
but it did not disappoint.
No. And on paper, you would think, okay, it's no contest. It's humans against insects, right? You think ahead of time, but
I don't know. When you're reading this book,
those
spiders,
but
they're
that's
crafty.
what I mean. Then when the final thing happens, you're like, this is kind of fantastic.
Go spiders.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, but also you keep in mind that like the human ship was never intended for battle. They are coming at their weakest point. Yeah. They've already had so many things happen to them on the course of this. They are not well set up for fighting, and still they go in with the confidence they can just burn the spiders out.
Well, they don't think they're sentient. They think they're just biological weapons.
Yeah. Well, I like too how when when the spiders had captured that one human, they didn't think it was sentient either.
Yeah.
Right.
Because they couldn't hear the speech because the vibrations in the air are not something the spiders could pick up.
Yeah, I think about that a lot and how they, at one point, they make a comment and they're like, oh, we think maybe they were trying to communicate through their mouth, but we dismissed that because it would be too inefficient that they would speak through the same orifice that they consumed food with.
Yeah.
So good.
Yeah, that was brilliant.
Yeah.
So I absolutely love this book. I have been having a fantastic year reading. Like, I have read some amazing books this year, and I attribute my newfound love of reading again with the 5th season when we read that earlier, like in December, I guess. Mm-hmm. And then after that, I started reading a lot more books, and I've been finding some fantastic books. And this one still stands as maybe the best book I've read in a year.
Are you going to read the others?
Yes, absolutely.
You know, the cool thing about it too, I thought, is that unlike some of the other series we've read, this felt very satisfying in and of itself. That there is a sort of a little coda, a time jump at the end. So it does set up, yes, there's going to be more of the story. But if this is all there was, I felt very satisfied, you know, which sometimes doesn't happen with series where, they kind of try to get you to read the next one. But they don't, there's no trying here. I'm definitely wanting to read more of this.
It almost
world.
makes me wonder if it was intended as a trilogy or if it was just written as a one-off. And then, you know, with that ending, it could have been left as an open-ended ending because it stands that way very well.
Yeah.
But the fact that the next book does seem to take off from exactly there is like, did he just decide to follow it up, or was this the plan all along? I don't know.
You'll have to let me know how the sequel and third one is, because I really like this book, but I understand that the second and third are kind of more of that, like the animals being uplifted, like that long, you know, period of evolution. Like I think the second one is octopus. And that's the part in this book that I just felt dragged a little bit. So I don't, but let me know.
I read somewhere that there's actually going to be a 4th book in the series coming out. Yeah, it's not out yet. So yeah.
Well, if he keeps up the quality of writing, I'm sure I will enjoy them. We sound like we're wrapping up. We're not wrapping up.
Can we talk about the ending?
Yeah.
Sure.
I mean, we always talk about spoilers, and I was hesitating whether we should reveal the ending because it's...
it's so good.
It's so good.
Yeah.
But yeah, reader, if you don't want the ending spoiled, stop listening now. Yeah, let's talk about the ending.
Okay, so I'm not sure what the intention is. So it appears that, you know, the spiders have infected the humans with something, and now they're all cooperating. They're all, you know, living in harmony together. But is it just me, or have the humans been now just treated like the ants? Like the humans are now basically the slaves of the spiders. That's what I want it, what I want the ending to be.
Okay.
I don't want this the harmonious happily ever after, we're working together, fine, whatever. But I like my theory that like the humans are basically ants now.
I think that's accurate. That's how I would think it, because I think like the humans led with violence and the ants led with empathy, like Ryan Dowd.
I am going to disagree with you both.
Okay.
For reasons that I think were set out well in the novel. When they described the war between the spiders and the ants, one of the things that they mentioned repeatedly is that the ants didn't have the same kind of intelligence as the spiders. That the ant intelligence was kind of like any individual ant wasn't really smart. You couldn't talk to it. You couldn't reason with it. You couldn't do anything with it.
It's like the hive mind.
It was the hive as a whole that had like emergent properties that made it intelligent and made it do intelligent things. But it was largely driven by like chemical triggers and environmental triggers and things like that. So the spiders didn't view the ants as sentient in the same way that they were. And again, the term sentient is often misused. Sentient just means that you can sense things and have a sense of, you know, yourself in the environment. Like all mammals are sentient, and most animals that we think of are sentient. Like a cow is sentient. We often refer to it to mean something like bordering on human intelligence, where there's self-awareness. The ants didn't seem to have self-awareness in the way that the spiders did or the humans do.
But do the spiders how do the spiders see the humans? Do the spiders see the humans as sentient?
They see them, by the end of the novel, they see them as self-aware because they were having that talk at the end where Kern was saying that she had advised the spiders of her preferred solution.
Right. Yeah.
And they argued and disagreed with her because Kern wanted to kill off all the humans. And the spiders argued and eventually decided that humans were enough like them, self-aware enough that they didn't want to do that. So they had an ethics debate about how they should respond to human incursion to a degree that the humans didn't have, which, again, because the humans assumed they were just monsters. So, and the other thing is they managed to enslave the ants because the ants are slaves to their chemical signals, and it was easy to manipulate them. Humans are harder to do that with. The virus that the spiders infected them with was a version of the nanovirus that they themselves had been infected with. But basically the part that they kept in that virus was the part where two organisms with that virus in them would recognize each other as being similar, as being like kin. So basically it's an empathy virus, which is brilliant. Like, as I was reading it early on when it was clear that that was how the spiders were working together, it was creating empathy. I'm like, I want this virus and I want to spread it everywhere. So I don't think that they were slaves. I think that they were just made to realize that they had to treat the spiders like they would treat themselves, so they could still cooperate fully with each other. I mean, they were tricked into empathy, essentially, or having empathy forced upon them.
Yeah, you make a good point. I wish it was the other way, but
I love this, though. I mean, and, I was talking before about how it was nice that the names of the spider characters were kept small in number so that we could remember them. But I also think that really triggered empathy more in the reader, because you're always reading about Portia and Bianca and Fabian. So you're more empathetic to them. The whole book is about empathy and how it's the only, like, the best way to survive. So it's like a passionate plea for empathy among us all right now. Because if spiders can do that and humans can figure it out when they have to, it's like, yeah, let's do that now and skip the whole destroying the earth phase. Man, I like this book.
Yeah, me too.
Of the humans, which characters did you like the most?
I guess, we're closest to Holston, and so I liked him, and he's not a science guy. He's a classicist. He's into languages and, like, old stuff. So I appreciated that about him. But also Portia. Are we talking about humans?
Well, I mentioned humans, but you can go with whichever character.
The other, this is not a character-driven novel, and I don't think the characters are particularly strong. They're kind of just like, they're there, they're, you know who they are, but they're not super well developed.
They're not given a lot of room to evolve, I guess. Well, some of them are. Guyan really changes over the course.
Yeah, he does.
Yeah.
And there's the relationship between Holston and Lane, which is interesting as the centuries pass and they each get woken up and, they have something. But like I said, it's not a novel where, like, the characters are the thing.
Yeah. And I think just by the nature of the fact that they go into cold sleep for hundreds of years in between their encounters, it's kind of hard to relate to them, because in their world, it's more of a constant thing, but there's such gaps and the situations that they're dealing with after each awakening is so startling. I kind of enjoyed that part where every time Holston was woken up, you're like, oh, like what's gone wrong now? And it doesn't spell it out right away. At one point he's grabbed and he's marched down and he's thrown into like a jail kind of, or
is that when there was the cult?
Yeah.
I think that's when Guyan was trying to do his upload.
Yeah.
Leading up to that. Yeah. That was one of my actually favorite sections of the whole Gilgamesh thing, was when he's awakened and he discovers that Guyan has apparently woken up huge numbers of people from the cargo to do stuff for him, and that they've had kids and their kids have had kids, and there's now multiple generations on the ship that have gone kind of primitive because they don't have school or anything, and culture is all weird, and he doesn't know what's going on. And it's a very, what's that movie with Marlon Brando?
Streetcar Named Desire.
No, the
Apocalypse Now?
Yeah, like Apocalypse Now.
Yeah.
Like things have gone nuts, and there's
random movie.
and you're trying to figure it out, and it's like that's exactly the type of story I like from generation ship stories or
Yeah.
space arc stories, where something has gone so wrong that it's just not what you expected or wanted from it, but it's there.
Yeah, like you have this super high tech ship that's able to travel to deep space, but people are living like in hammocks and they've taken over a cargo hold and like this temporary camp, but it's where these people are living. It's all they know. And that part kind of made me sad.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you never want to be in one of these stories. Like, I also like the way they explored the idea through Holston that it's just such a difficult thing to process mentally for a human to realize that you are now thousands of years old, but it's been in fits and starts, and the universe that you knew, the world that you knew, everything has passed by, and he freaks out all the time because he doesn't know what to do with all of this. It doesn't seem to make any sense. Is there any point to doing any of that? At no point is there any certainty that they're going to survive. There's that one moment at the beginning where they first discover that the planet is actually there, where the old star charts said it would be, where they're all like, oh, thank goodness, we're actually going to be able to make it. But everything after that is like, oh, are we even going to survive, you know?
Yeah. It's an interesting choice too, that the book doesn't ever tie back into old Earth at all. Like there isn't sort of like what's going on back there, or you don't really get flashbacks to the characters when they were living on Earth and stuff. Like for all intents and purposes in the story, Earth is a memory. There's no going back at this point. And it gave this kind of a cold feel to it that they really are in deep space alone. There's no rescue. This is it for them.
Yeah, it's very forlorn. How much time do you think there was between the old empire and like the Gilgamesh people?
That's something I couldn't figure out.
Yeah.
Right? Because I don't think that the characters from Earth would have known, because Kern's stand at the end, at the beginning of the novel where, the non-ultra natura
Right.
people, they did their thing, and apparently they succeeded in wiping out everything. So that was like the apocalypse, that moment in time. And we know that Gilgamesh took 1,800 years before they first got a signal from Kern's world. And those are the only time frames we're really sure about. After that, it's like 100 years or so here, 100 years there. We don't know that span. And we really have no idea from the apocalypse to the point where they sent out the Ark ship. And Kern has no way of knowing because there's no feedback. So who knows? I mean, Earth went through an ice age. They talk about that at the beginning.
Yeah.
It was only after the ice age started receding and they realized that the planet was so poisoned that even once all the ice melted, they were going to die anyway from all the poison, toxin, radioactive stuff, whatever.
But they got this incredible technology up and running fairly quickly, it seems.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Although their technology was very limited compared to what there had been,
to the
because
old empire.
Even a small little satellite could totally neutralize a gigantic ship.
Yeah, that's the thing too. Like, just the timelines of it are so hard to understand, because even before this story takes place, there's stories of the humans going out to the existing colonies or existing space stations and kind of looting them and stuff. And so that means even before this character's time, there was a culture that was able to go out and colonize the in-system worlds and stuff. So it really is hard to draw a timeline from, like, say, today forward to the far-flung future, as I said in my intro.
Yeah, it could be 10,000 years.
Yeah.
Could be more. We don't know how long it would have taken the spiders to evolve with the nanovirus present. I mean, without the nanovirus, you're looking at millions of years of evolution minimum for anything like that to happen. But with the virus in play, that also messes with the time frame, so you couldn't guess from that either.
I guess you have to think that the virus affected everything that was on the planet.
But in different
no.
ways.
In different ways?
No, I reread the beginning because it was such a long book. I wasn't sure how all the other animals came into play, because there were mice and other things on the planet's surface as well. But Kern says at the beginning that they had specifically chosen fauna for the Earth that would not compete with the monkeys. So the mammals, like the mice and such, and the deer, whatever, were specifically genetically modified so they would reject the virus. And then Kern, or the narrator maybe says at that point, they didn't consider the invertebrates. because they didn't think that they were anything more than kind of background filler. So they didn't modify the spiders and the mantis shrimp and anything else on the planet in that kind of mental space for the designers. And that's why it was able to take hold and also, I guess when they're talking originally about Portia and her companions, they mention how the virus worked differently in different animals because some of them, it just seemed to go nowhere.
Yeah, like the beetles.
Yeah. Well, the beetles seem to have something.
They had some, but they weren't going to space.
No. And some other types of spiders, they got bigger, but they didn't really get that much smarter. And so it had different effects on different species, and it just happened to really click well with a couple of them.
So if the monkeys had made it to that planet,
Yeah.
I guess both the monkeys and the spiders would have been uplifted.
Probably.
Yeah.
Yeah, which would have been an interesting story too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Although, and also you mentioned at the beginning of in the intro that the plan had been for the monkeys to be like a slave race, essentially.
You're right.
When I was rereading the beginning part, Kern says that was how it was sold, but that wasn't her intention. From her point of view, she wanted the monkeys to thrive because she had had enough of humanity and just thought, we're going out to all these other places, but this one is my world and I want the monkeys to do well. So I don't know if she ever had any intention of really having Kern's planet be what they had pitched it as.
It wasn't like another place for humans to live.
It didn't seem like Kern really intended that.
That maybe explains why, like, the Kern AI was so anti-human when the Gilgamesh showed up, right? If she wasn't so pro-monkey, then maybe, because I always thought that was a bit strange how violent the satellite reacted to the arrival of the Gilgamesh. I just thought you could chalk it up to Kern's like insanity, but if she was already like done with humanity based on everything that she experienced and with the protesters and everything that.
Yeah.
I mean, from the first chapter, she's a villain, capital V.
Well, the God complex was extremely evident.
Yeah.
I think she even says, "We are gods" in her head as she's giving that speech.
Right.
And yeah, I found that too, the whole God complex thing between Kern and Nguyen, people who are leading the way are like deeply messed up in terms of the arrogance. There's always an argument, I guess, about does the leader need to be an asshole? I guess is the thing, like be arrogant, be able to like dismiss the concerns of large parts of the population and even let them die in order to move the whole thing forward. And some people argue that, and you would say these characters definitely seem to have that in common.
Do you think Lane was like that?
No, much less so, right? But Lane wasn't. Lane is an interesting character.
People followed Lane in a different way. Like she became almost like a grandmother, kind of a spiritual leader, and someone who, if push came to shove, I think people would line up with her before Nguyen.
Well, he was very standoffish and wouldn't tell you what was going on. Like he kept his plans to himself.
Yeah, like he really sort of bought into the whole, my mission is to preserve humanity at any cost. And he sort of interpreted his mission in kind of a very kind of narrow way that he.
Yeah. And I mean, you can make the argument definitely like we are talking about the survival of the entire species potentially, right? So, and then there's the question that comes out of that, like how much can you justify when everything is on the line? Which is part of why the build up to that final meeting between the spiders and the humans was so big, because they were literally both fighting for the very survival of every single one of their species. No going back. It has to happen. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I tell you one of my favorite passages in the book.
Please.
So after the first attempt of the Gilgamesh to get to Kern's planet, and they're sent away, they go to that moon, that ice moon, and they drop off some people there, right? And then they leave. And the spiders, by this point, they have those crystals. They've been able to pick up the Kern satellite, which they refer to as the messenger. And then they notice there's another signal in the sky. And reading it, you're like, oh, the moon colony, right? But this one was irregular. It had different kind of signals. It wasn't as consistent as the messenger was. And then suddenly it became consistent, just like the messenger. And then it stopped. Mm-hmm. And it's like, okay, so you're reading through and it's like, okay, it became consistent because now they're sending a distress call. Mm-hmm. And then the distress call stopped. So that's like the first moment you know that the moon colony died off. I thought that was such a brilliant little way to tell that part of the story and then later confirm it with the humans later on. But I just love little touches like that where it's subtle, but it's just an interesting way to write it, and I loved it.
I felt like we deserved more from that moon colony because it was such a big point of contention on the ship. You know, it created a crisis. People who did not want to go to that moon, and then people are sent to that moon, and what went wrong? What happened? I want to know, because they were set up to live there for generations.
Yeah, and that's sort of another example of how this book is going in a different way than maybe we think. Like, it kept it interesting. I think, like, what's going on the moon? And then we never do fully.
I mean, they die. They all die.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think we can extrapolate from everything that went wrong with the Gilgamesh that, like, all the equipment that they had was well beyond its intended lifespan. And things kept breaking down because they were at the limits of their technology. They were pushing as hard as they could, and they just didn't have enough to handle anything unforeseen.
They could have all just killed each other too, because none of them wanted to go. They were angry. They had sent those people who started that rebellion down there.
Yeah, and that would also fit with the pattern, because I guess Holston made the point too of, we keep idolizing the empire and we're doing all the same mistakes. Like, we're making all the same mistakes. And that kept recurring on the Gilgamesh too. So yeah, that would be a good, I guess we're just left to think which one was it.
I want a spin-off novella of that lone human captive of the spiders.
Oh, right.
I really liked that little bit. It was so short, but like what a crazy time, because we only see it from the spider's perspective.
Can you imagine? You've been captured by spiders and they're not eating you. Yeah. They keep poking you and prodding you and taking blood samples and whatever else. And you're just like, can I have a hamburger? And they don't understand a thing. And you're trying to figure out, because they said that the human had tried to get some rudimentary communication going. So it's like you're sitting there your whole life just trying to figure out, how do I tell them what I need? Or like, wild.
Also, when the ants attack the humans when they first arrived to the planet, that was pretty gruesome.
Yes.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
That was like horror movies.
Yeah.
Coming up through the spacesuit. Yeah.
I love it when they see the footage from the drone and it's just like a spider eating the drone. It's like, ah! That's what I thought the book was going to be more of going into it. Instead, it's just very thoughtful throughout. Mm-hmm. A lot of exploration of culture and religion and trends, I guess, in culture, rights of different groups within a culture.
Yeah, I mean, of course, I love the matriarchal society of the spiders, but I do understand that Fabian had issues with the way the males were treated.
Yeah. Please don't eat me.
Yeah.
I don't want to be eaten all the time. Like, my friend just got eaten by, it's like, yeah. Yeah, the inequities of spider society were still there.
Mm-hmm.
Fight the matriarchy.
Yeah, which they did. Yeah,
did. And also, the argument, this is only natural. And, for spiders, it definitely was natural.
I mean, the females are bigger. They're stronger.
Males are delicious. I mean,
yeah.
Hard to argue with, yeah.
Why weren't they eating the shrimp, though? I bet they were the most delicious.
They were in the water.
Well, they could go to space. They could figure out how to fish.
Yeah.
They probably would, but they also, again, recognized that because they both would have had the same nanovirus, so they would have recognized them as not food. And
they kind of had like a bit of a relationship, right? There was some trade between them, and like there was, that was not really explored in the novel, but that would also, I'd like to see a little novella of maybe from the shrimp's perspective.
I feel like you could have like a whole raft of fan fiction coming out of this that explores all these different things that got brought up.
Yeah.
And it would be totally worth reading.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, the ants are really fascinating. That whole with them domesticating the aphids to make the honeydew, like that's so cool.
Well, which is a thing. Like that's I like a lot of these things that the insects and arthropods did in this book are like just extrapolations from what they do.
I know, like I had to do a bit of a deep dive on how crystal radio works because I couldn't figure out exactly like, what's this thing that the spiders stole from the ants and how is it sending signals? But it's kind of based on crystal radio technology from, say, the early 1900s.
Yeah.
So, you got to give it to the author for really trying, like you said, hard science fiction, trying to give an explanation for everything that was going on. Like it's even with like the two streams of data, how one is like the information, but then the other one is like the signal. That all kind of is based on early radio stuff too, which I didn't know.
Yeah, this is one of the things that really gets me about writing a book like this. Like the amount of knowledge you have or to find, and like all the research you have to do to come up with something that is reasonably scientifically accurate while still being interesting as a story, and to weave in all these different themes that come from understanding history to some degree. Like, like there's just so much stuff to hold in your head and to put down in an interesting way. It's like I couldn't even conceive of trying to start a book like this myself. But there's so much in there, and the stuff that I do know about science and the way computers work and stuff like that, there's nothing out of place. I mean, you might be wrong about some stuff, I don't know, but suspension of disbelief is a thing you do when you read a book, that you accept that some things may not be totally realistic, but you accept them for the sake of the story. And that's not uncommon in science fiction. You just understand that, yeah, there's ray guns or whatever, but he didn't seem to take shortcuts on that. He tried to give such good explanations for everything that were coherent with our understanding of the universe. And that takes a lot of effort and really impresses me. Ooh, we're going a little longer than usual. So,
oh, well, we all really love this book.
Yeah. I don't think I have to ask if you would recommend it.
I'm not reading the second one, but, well, maybe after you guys read it and tell me it's awesome.
If we tell you it's even better than the first one?
Yeah, then I'll read it.
Yeah. It's a lot to live up to. I don't know if it can do that, but
yeah.
You never know. N.K. Jemisin did it. So.
It's true. Yeah.
Yeah. The difference with this book is like, I don't feel like I need to read the second one right away. Whereas like with the fifth season, I was like, I just got to get right in there. In fact, I think I had almost finished the second book when we were recording the podcast, but this one, yeah, I am going to read it, but I feel like I can take a deep breath and just appreciate this for what it is on its own. And if I want to revisit this world, and I probably will, I know I will. Who am I kidding?
Yeah.
But, yeah.
I'll have the trilogy finished by the end of the year, which also contributes to my,
the resolution.
How about that?
Reading resolution.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much. It was the easiest reading resolution I've had so far. So before we wrap up then, does anyone have final comments about this that you want to share before we move on?
Did not disappoint.
Okay, well then we come up with our next segment, which should be interesting. Can you tell me a book I would also like? So what do you guys think of?
I was trying to rack my brains for any other books that deal with spiders as main characters. So I'm recommending Charlotte's Web. For those of you who are not aware of it, it's by E.B. White, published in 1952. And we have a pig, Wilbur, who is about to be slaughtered because he's the runt. And Fern, the girl who lives at the farm, makes the case to save Wilbur just because she loves him. And there's a spider that also lives in Wilbur's pen called Charlotte. Charlotte is able to weave messages in her web that make Wilbur like a roadside attraction. The relationship between Wilbur and Charlotte develop. And this was the first book I remember being read to. We read along with this book in grade 2. My grade 2 teacher, Ms. Lajeunesse, and I was very angry with other kids that thought they could read ahead. And I was like, that's not how we're doing this. Like, we're reading a chapter at a time. And so some kids were reading ahead, but I stuck to the program. Did I cry at the end? Yes, I did. And did I cry again when I read this to my daughter not too many years ago? Yes, I did. Did she cry? She did not. But Charlotte's Web.
Yeah, that's a good one. So sad. So mine is totally different. As I was reading this book, particularly the bits with the spiders, I kept thinking about a nonfiction book I read a few years ago. And I've talked about this book before. I don't know if I've talked about it on the podcast, but it's the book An Immense World, How Animal Senses Reveal the Hidden Realms Around Us by Ed Yong. And it's basically what the subtitle says. It's a book about how animals use their senses to perceive the world, and it's often very different from us. Like how in this book, Tchaikovsky spends a lot of time explaining how the animals communicate. You know, they rely heavily on vibration. An Immense World, it goes through the 5 senses and it explores the unique ways animals experience these senses. And you will become so obnoxious if you read this book because the things you learn when reading this, you have to share with everyone. For instance, birds can see way, way, way more colors than we can. Like birds can see ultraviolet. They can you cannot imagine the colors that birds can see. Catfish, their whole body is covered in taste buds.
Whoa.
So if you licked a catfish, you would both taste each other at the same time. An eagle can spot a rat from a mile away. A dolphin, because they communicate using sound waves, and sound waves can penetrate like flesh and water. If you were in the water with a dolphin, it could see your lungs and your organs. It could tell if you had a fetus inside of you.
What?
It's crazy. It's so crazy. So it's super well researched, very well written. It does get a bit sciencey, but overall he writes with a lot of empathy and humor, and it's just a book I've never forgotten about. And I think Ed Yong and Adrian Tchaikovsky would have a lot to talk about. So yeah, that's my recommendation, An Immense World by Ed Yong.
Nice.
Yeah.
I went way back to a book called A Canticle for Leibowitz by Walter Miller Jr. Have either of you heard of this one?
No.
This is set in a future where nuclear war has devastated the Earth. The novel covers a period of over 1,000 years as civilization rebuilds itself. The monks of the Albertian Order of Leibowitz preserve the surviving remnants of humanity's scientific knowledge until the world is again ready for it. So you can kind of see the similarities to Children of Time, Apocalypse, trying to piece together the old world, going into the future. It was published in 1959. It won the 1961 Hugo Award for Best Novel and has never been out of print. It's considered one of the classics of science fiction. I read it in the 90s, I think. I don't remember too much of the details anymore, but a coworker of mine who had read it before me said that this was the book that people would cite when there was an argument about whether science fiction could be literature, because this was seriously literature. So yeah, it's still available. We still have it in the collection, A Canticle for Leibowitz. I think if you enjoyed this book, many aspects of it would be in Leibowitz as well. Now for everyone's favorite segment, Nerd Words for Word Nerds, in which the panel shares words or phrases we'd want to preserve if humanity was on the brink of extinction.
That's a
little heavier than normal.
My word is not was not live up to that.
Well, it will be in the annals if we are destined for extinction. So.
All right.
Well, if my phrase or word makes it in, I think will be very helpful, because part of the fun of reading a book that's written by someone who's British is they often use terminology that us in North America may not know. Like, for example, they'll use the term torch for flashlight, petrol for fuel and gas or whatever. But the word that kept coming up in this novel was jury-rigged. I don't know if I'm alone with this. I had never really heard jury-rigged. I always heard the term jerry-rigged. So I thought, are they related? What do they mean? Well, jury-rigged comes from a maritime transport term in sailing, and it's making a temporary or makeshift repair to something with only using the tools or the materials you have on board. And the terminology may have come from jour, the French word for day, like as if we're just going to fix this for the day, a temporary thing. Although there's other sources that say that it could have come from other sources. But I thought what was interesting is that there are other terms that are used by different cultures. So, for example, jerry-rigged is also the main thing, but I didn't realize apparently it's kind of a derogatory term that was used during the war to describe German people, jerrys. Although I thought that was ironic, because German technology is known to be like high tech and very efficient. So, but
well, German technology at the time was also known to be overcomplicated.
Okay,
because like a German tank tended to have more moving parts than an American tank, and so if it broke down, there'd be more to fix.
Oh, right. So there's other terms that mean the same thing. So keeping on the German theme, there's a term called Trick 17. There's no such thing as tricks 1 to 16, but suggests that the 17th thing you try is the thing that's going to work. There's also something in French called the Système D, like letter D, where the D stands for déroubile, which is managing or getting by on its own. So they talk about Système D in French being for jury-rigged. In Britain, another term is bodger, which rhymes with dodger, or kludge, or to fudge something. I know we've heard, I've heard that before. Oh, we just fudged it, kind of made do. But kludge, haven't heard that. And in North America,
I've heard that one a bunch.
Kludge?
Yeah. And kludge is, a quick fix that you do because you have to, and you probably should make it proper before too long.
And the final one I'll mention is North American origins, to MacGyver something, which we all know. So, yeah, jury rigged.
My word also comes from the book this month, and that is the word booklung, which appeals to me, of course, because it has the word book in it. It's the way the spiders breathe. And a booklung is like our lungs. It's a type of respiration organ used for atmospheric gas exchange in some arachnids. Book lungs apparently are a terrestrial adaptation of a type of gill seen in some marine animals. And I don't know why, but in my head, whenever I read the word book lung, I pictured like an accordion. Do you know what I mean? Like it kind of looks like a book and it like pushes air in and out, but it does not look like that. It kind of looks like the pages of a book. Like if a book is closed, there's, it just looks like the pages, and the organ has these layers, and that's just why it's called a book lung. So there you go.
That's great, because whenever I encountered that word, I kept thinking, I need to look this up. I never did. So I'm glad that we got the explanation.
Yeah.
I did look up palps because they kept referring to that, and I thought it was maybe those little legs right near the mouth of the spider, and it was, but so my word also comes from the book because, full of Britishisms. I figured out very early this guy must be British just from the language. There's a passage about a third of the way through the book when the spiders are about to invade the mobile ant fortress that says, the advance of Portia and her fellows is slow and reluctant despite the chivying of Bianca from behind. So chivy means to coerce or hurry along as by persistent request. The word is thought to have originally derived from the Ballad of Chevy Chase, which was first published in 1549, but is thought to be at least a century older. It's a ballad about a hunt taking place...
Did you say Chevy Chase?
Chevy Chase.
Okay, just making sure.
Yeah.
Okay, like the actor.
Would you rather say Chevy Chase?
No, I just like the actor.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which I will come to.
Okay.
So it is about a hunt that takes place on a chase, which was a term for a large country estate used for hunting in the Cheviot Hills. So Chevy Chase. So chivy came to mean to chase, to hunt, or to pursue, which evolved to chase, race, and scamper, and then eventually to coerce or hurry along. Other meanings for it include to subject to harassment or verbal abuse, and to sneak upon or rapidly approach, or to pursue as in a hunt. And in case you're wondering, as I was, yes, the Ballad of Chevy Chase was the inspiration for the actor Chevy Chase's name. The actor was born Cornelius Crane Chase, and Chevy was his childhood nickname and then eventual stage name. Yeah, so Chivy.
I've learned several things.
I know. This book just pushes learning upon you like a virus. So unfortunately, that's all the time we have for this month. Thank you so much for joining us, dear readers. For our next episode, we're going to read and discuss The Night Watchman by Louise Erdrich. Thomas Washashk is the night watchman at the Jewel Bearing Plant, the first factory located near the Turtle Mountain Reservation in rural North Dakota. He's also a Chippewa Council member who is trying to understand the consequences of a new emancipation bill on its way to the floor of the United States Congress. It is 1953, and he and the other council members know the bill isn't about freedom. Congress is fed up with the Indians. The bill is a termination that threatens the right of Native Americans to their land and their very identity. Patrice Parenteau makes jewel bearings at the plant, a job that barely pays enough to support her mother and brother. Patrice's shameful alcoholic father returns home sporadically to terrorize his wife and children and bully her for money. But Patrice needs every penny to follow her beloved older sister Vera, who has moved to Minneapolis and who may have disappeared. Determined to find Vera and her child, Patrice makes a fateful trip to Minnesota that introduces her to unexpected forms of exploitation and violence and endangers her life. Thomas and Patrice live in this impoverished reservation community along with the young Chippewa boxer Wood Mountain and his mother, Juggy Blue, her niece and Patrice's best friend Valentine, and Stack Barnes, the white high school math teacher and boxing coach who's hopelessly in love with Patrice. Have comments or book suggestions for us? Send us an email. You can find all our contact info at the bottom of the page at wpl-podcast.winnipeg.ca. You can also find all our past episodes there too. If you haven't already, subscribe to Time to Read on your favorite podcasting service. Maybe leave us a review. Tell your book-loving friends about us too. And until next time, make sure you find time to read. Feel ready?
Sure.
Yeah.
Always very enthusiastic.
Well, because he's got a whole spider message ready. You're not going to tap out the lyrics to the Spider-Man theme song. No. Okay.